And actually, it's a trap that a lot of marketers fall into, myself included, to write in the abstract as opposed to actually saying it like it is, because we've got to remember that the reader just wants to get the message, and our attention spans are very short nowadays. So the more clear we can be and the more quickly we can get to the point, the more helpful that is for the reader, and the more engaging our words will be, our copy will be for the reader, because they'll be able to understand it. The moment somebody is confused, they hop off, they check out, they've got other things to do, they haven't got the brain power and prose, given the thousands and upon thousands of messages that we're bombarded with every single day.
Well, welcome everyone to the Professional Rule Breaker podcast. And today I have an amazing guest. This guest is the founder of Flurry Marketing. She's an expert conversion copywriter and a marketer that works with online course creators and entrepreneurs to amplify their authority and to attract the perfect fit customer. And who doesn't want a perfect fit customer? Her superpower is writing powerful words and pages and sequences that taps into the hearts, minds, and wallets of her audience. She helps her clients double their mailing list, 3x their open rate, and grow from 5 to 6 figures in a single launch. So welcome, my friend Ella. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, Kathy. It's great. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So Ella, just so everyone knows, she was a recent guest on my summit, and she provided so much value on the Entrepreneur Success Summit. I wanted to make sure that she was a guest on my podcast as well. So I want to just start off just digging in, because conversion copywriting is really hard for entrepreneurs and for small businesses. And especially if they've never done it before, or they've never taken any type of courses, it's not their forte. So how do you start writing copy?
Well, let's just demystify that, because I do think that whole phraseology, conversion copywriting, is a little bit overwhelming sometimes if you are new to writing. But in essence, all it is writing with the intention of coaching a decision from your reader. It's coaching somebody to act. So it's a process of education, or it's writing with the intention of selling something. So there's an intention behind it. But essentially, it is just putting pen to paper, or fingers to keypad, and putting words together that are engaging and interesting for your reader, and will lead them on a journey, and the journey that you want to take them. And if you're reaching the right target audience as well, it's a journey that they want to go on. You're writing for your audience, and so you're serving your customer in that way as well.
So what if you have like somebody that is just sitting down, they have to either write some copy for, let's just say, their website, or an email.
Yeah.
And then they're just drawing a blank.
Yeah. It's such a common problem. You're not alone if that's you. And even as a professional copywriter, I still sit down sometimes and I'm faced with that awful blinking cursor syndrome where you think, where am I going to start? But it's once you have a few tips and techniques, which I'll talk about, it's really not that difficult. It's just about getting yourself over that first line and getting started. And sometimes it's really hard for us to write fully formed sentences just from the get-go. We're just not in the right headspace for that, or we're not sure where to start. So simplify it down. Think about just writing some points, first of all, just writing some points about what you want to talk about. And if it helps, I think it helps me sometimes to think about my reader. We spoke recently about having our one customer, our one reader in mind, that one person that we're writing to. We're not trying to be everything to everybody. But when you think about who it is in your target market that you're trying to talk to, It's helpful sometimes to put a little user story together, if you like, a little mission statement, and to have a goal for your piece of writing. What is it that you want your writing to achieve, or what do you want the reader to take from this thing that you're going to write? So it just helps to focus you on who you're writing for, first of all. And then when you want to write down your points about what you're trying to say, you can either jot them down with a pen and paper. You can speak them aloud. If you're more of an audio person and more of a verbal processor, just pick up your phone and turn the recording function on. And next time you're out for a walk or whatever, just record yourself saying what you want to say, getting your point across. As long as you've got those points in some sort of order, then you've got the basis of where to start. And so I think when I think about writing for the first time or writing as a beginner, there is a sort of series of stages that you can go through. And the first one being to pre-write. And that's to spend a little bit of time brainstorming ideas, and to focus and clarify your thinking. So that would be the first step. And then once you sort of got a rough idea of what you want to say, draft it, write your story, and don't worry about how it comes out in the beginning either. Don't worry how the words fit on the page. In fact, sometimes it's good to get the mess out first and just to get something down on paper just to get you started.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because something I had heard, and I know really helped me, was don't worry about perfect punctuation.
Mm-hmm.
Just write as if you're speaking instead. And I found for me, once I got that, it's almost that perfectionism out of the way.
Yeah.
Everything became a lot easier.
Yeah. I think, because of the way we're educated and schooled, with wanting to, being told that we have to have the perfect grammar and the punctuation right, and that, the sentences have to be nicely formed, it can really be a blockage for us as writers later down the line, that we don't want to even start because we think it's going to be wrong, or that, but you have to just forget about that. Forget about the grammar police for now. I mean, if you can get the grammar and the punctuation right, then credit to you, brilliant. But you don't have to. We've got so many tools at our disposal now, sort of artificial intelligence tools that can fix things that are broken.
Mm-hmm.
So Grammarly is a really popular one. It's free to use. So just get the words out on paper first of all, and then we can go back as part of the revising and the editing process and the proofreading process at the end. That's where we fix things and get the typos right, and fix the spelling mistakes and add in the punctuation. But for now, just get that story out there. Start with some bullet points, and then go back and expand on those and turn those bullet point things that you want to say into more fleshed out sentences. And then the sentences are like the bricks, and we put the bricks together and to build paragraphs, and then we've got some sort of flow. And it's really helpful as well, I think, to write clearly and concisely, and clear beats clever every time. So don't worry about fancy words and trying to make it sound
right,
grown up. We don't need to worry about that. In fact,
like you talk, instead of like using just terms that people don't use.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that, they're just like, I just want to get more clients.
Mm-hmm.
So if I use like, hey, let's talk about the sales funnel, in their mind, they're like, no, if I had said, I can help you get more clients, said, hey, let's work on your sales funnel. It's a big difference there.
Yeah. Great example. Say what you mean.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's very easy, and actually it's a trap that a lot of marketers fall into, myself included, to write in the abstract as opposed to actually saying it like it is, because we've got to remember that the reader just wants to get the message, and our attention spans are very short nowadays. So the more clear we can be and the more quickly we can get to the point, the more helpful that is for the reader, and the more engaging our words will be, our copy will be for the reader, because they'll be able to understand it. The moment somebody is confused, they hop off, they check out, they've got other things to do, they haven't got the brain power and praise, given the thousands and upon thousands of messages that we're bombarded with every single day. we haven't got the energy to expend on trying to work out a complicated sentence or read words that we don't understand, that we'd have to look them up in the dictionary.
Oh my
We
God,
really,
that's right.
yeah, keep it
And I've
simple.
seen emails like that, and I was like, "Are they doing that to kinda get, like, a jolt?" Because it's like, "What is that?" Or not. But I have a question for you. So you write this amazing copy, right? But you have to have some sort of hook. You have to have some sort of headline, whether it's an email or if it's on your website or in a publication.
Yeah,
That seems to be the biggest challenge, I think, for most people is how on earth do you write a hook?
yeah. Okay, so typically the hook is something that you deploy in the first line or the opening paragraph. In music, a hook refers to the part of the song that's the catchiest and the most likely to,
Ah.
the most memorable, the thing that's going to hook you, the thing that creates that earworm where you're singing it over and over again. And in journalism, a hook is also known as a lead. Um, and a lead is essentially a hook or a lead. It's the most important point of the story that you are telling. It's not about regurgitating the facts. It's about getting to the point, figuring out the point of what you're trying to say. So it's not enough to know the who, the what, the where, the when. You really have to understand what you're trying to say, what it means, and why it matters to the reader. And often, I think, as writers, when we're writing, we start with warm-up copy. We write an introduction. We have a sort of long-winded way of
Mhm.
introducing the topic that we want to talk about. And it's this perfectly normal and natural way to write. That's just the way we think about it in our heads. But we have to sort of, when we go back to the revising process and the editing process, we have to be able to spot what is that warm-up copy, because that is not always essential. It's the nice to have stuff. It's the build-up. But we need to get straight to the point. We need to get our reader, drop them straight into the heart of the action. And that's what the hook is. So it's okay to have warm-up copy. It's a slow start into the story. That's fine in the first draft. But when we go back to edit, think about the goal of the page or the goal of the piece of work we're doing. Think about why we're writing in the first place and what the real message is to get across. There's a thing in storytelling called the battlefield principle, or in media res, and this means you dropping people into the heart of the action. It's like, imagine a soldier with a
Love
parachute on his back, and he's jumped out of the plane and he's jumping onto the battlefield. That's where you want to start your social media post. That's where you want to start your email. That's where you want to start your piece of writing. It's in the middle of the action, because that is attention grabbing. Okay. And also, you can then go back and revisit the how you got to that place. But it hooks people in and helps them to read on to the next line. And the only goal of a hook is to get people to read the next line. And then the only goal of the next line is to get them to read the next
Read the
line.
next one.
Yeah.
Speaking of the next line,
Uh-huh.
what do you think about, what is it called? The preview text
Mm-hmm.
in emails?
Right.
Is that a continuation of the hook? Or
Well,
what
I
is
would
that?
say when we're thinking about the structure of an email, you've got the who it's to, you've got who it's from,
Mhm.
and then you have your subject line. And that essentially is your title of the email, or it's your headline. And then below that, you have the preview text. And the preview text is almost like a subheading. It's like a continuation of the headline. A continuation of the subject line. It just offers a little more explanation as to what you're going to be writing about, what you're going to be telling your reader. And you want it to intrigue the reader enough to open the email.
Mhm.
It helps to write your preview text in a sort of lowercase conversation. It suggests it's conversational. You don't really, this day and age, from a stylistic point of view, if you capitalize every word in your title or heading, or particularly in your subject line, that's going to come across subconsciously as quite formal and almost like you're going to be sold something. It's official speak. It's an official way to speak. Whereas if you use lowercase, it feels much more like you're joining a conversation.
So
and
would
so
you
it's more
use
friendly.
lowercase in the hook too, or because I've seen emails that are just all lowercase
Yeah.
in the hook?
Yeah, it's about personal preference really, and your style. The most important thing is to stay consistent. I would always err on the side of using proper punctuation and grammar. So starting a sentence with a capital letter. That's my personal choice, but I have seen it's becoming more frequent to have things lowercase, and whether even titles and headlines to have them lowercase. So it's a personal preference, I think, and it's about your tone of voice and your how you want to come across and present yourself. Do you want to be friendly? Do you want to be official and a bit more corporate? It sometimes depends on who you're writing for. As a copywriter, I'd always find the voice of the client before I start writing and try and emulate their voice so that it's recognizable who it's coming from.
So let me ask you, what's the biggest mistake that you have seen people make?
Right, that's a good
There's
question.
probably a lot. I know I've probably made a lot of them too.
Yeah. Well, a mistake. Gosh. Well, I think the mistake is to not write in for people short attention spans. Okay, we've got to recognize that people are time pressured and that we need to attract their attention early doors and hold on to that and keep them engaged. So we use emotional language to get them to feel, get the reader to feel there is something in there. We use value. We must make a promise to our reader when we start writing that they're going to actually learn something from this. They're going to get some value, whether they're going to be entertained, educated, whatever. We make a promise to them, and then we have to deliver that in our writing as well. And the mistake is to try and write to everybody instead of writing to that one person. Because if you try and be everything to everybody, then you're
nothing to everyone. Yes.
Exactly. So that's really important. And the mistake is to speak too long-windedly when we want to be concise. We only need to say it is when we come to editing our work, it's about trying to get the message across in as few words as possible. Now, it does depend though on what it is that if you're selling something, what it is you're selling, because if you're asking people to make a big decision in your writing, it may be you're selling a high ticket mastermind program, for example. That would require quite a lot of work to inform people and educate them on the value of this program, because you're asking them to part with a great deal of money to invest in it. But perhaps for a smaller ticket item, you could get the message across within a lot fewer words. So it depends. You say as much as you need to say and not a word more. And so being concise is really important, and being clear over being clever, really important.
Absolutely. I like that. Clear over clever, for sure. I think that makes a big difference. Exactly what you said. Everyone's super busy, and the last thing they want to do is read a really long email that maybe you've sent them, or just a very long copy that is kind of fluffy and doesn't have a lot of what I would say meat and potatoes in it. So I love a lot of the analogies that you gave. I'm actually always going to think about now a hook as being the catchiest part of a song. That is huge. I think anytime I write my hooks, I'm going to be like, okay, so if this was a song, how would I, what would I want people to like think about over and over and over again?
How would I sing it?
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I know that you, like I, consider yourself to be a rule breaker. So what makes you a rule breaker, my friend?
Well, let's think. In copywriting terms, I'm a rule breaker because I am not a grammarian.
Okay.
Okay, I believe
I
that
didn't
the
even know that was a word. So
I don't know, but it is actually. If that's me breaking another rule, if it's not. But essentially, I believe that the message is more important. You know, it's how you say it is what you say is more important than how.
Mhm.
If you know, I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is that, you know, grammar doesn't have to be perfect. Don't let it hold you back. It's more important to say what you want to say clearly, and that is understood. And not to be shy of publishing your work because it's not perfect. Just get it out there and get that real live feedback from people. If your work is engaging people, if people are replying to your emails, if they are commenting on your social media posts, if they are inquiring to you through your website, then you're doing something right. It's that feedback is more crucial. And when you nowadays with technology and everything can be tracked and measured, and that's the key thing about conversion copywriting, is what differentiates it from any other form of writing, is the process is measurable. So whatever we put out there, we can test it. Is it working? You know, is it getting the reaction that we want? And if it is getting a positive reaction, we do more of that sort of thing. So we look at why this piece of writing got that result, and if we can tap into what it is that made that successful, then we do more of that. So that's really helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So where can people find you?
Okay, yes, I have a website, www.flurrymarketing.com. I'm also on Instagram as Flurry Marketing, and on LinkedIn as my name, Ella Hoyos, and on Twitter as my name, Ella Hoyos. And you can find me on Facebook at Flurry Marketing. But like you, Kathy, I have a podcast, and anybody who wants to learn more about copywriting can tune into Cracking Copy. It's co-hosted with a colleague and friend of mine, Minnie McBride. And every fortnight, every couple of weeks, we talk about a topic, a writing related topic. So that's a really good way to hear more from us and find out more about us.
Absolutely. I think you are a huge resource. And like I said earlier, you were one of our expert speakers on the Entrepreneur Success Summit, and the amount of value you gave in that topic was just insane. So if you ever get the opportunity to listen to Ella, please do so. So go to Cracking Copy, which is her podcast as well as her website. And I want to thank you, Ella. I always love talking to you.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. It's an honor. I really thank you.
You're very welcome.